Welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. This is Let's Talk Broncos. I'm Brie Maestas here with Zach Seegers and Joey Richards. Guys, how are you? I almost did it again. It's been a year of this.
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. I'm excited for today's podcast. It should be a good one. We have breakdowns by a friend of mine, Robbie Davis, a friend of the whole LTB podcast, Robbie Davis. He's the best X and O's guy I know. And I'm really excited to react to these videos live and then give my thoughts on these coaches afterwards as well. It should be a really interesting podcast. I think it should be really fun. But Zach, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I want to echo everything you said. Super excited whenever we can get Robbie on the show in this clip form. It's going to be a great little breakdown. Love to see Denny slash Dal in the chat and Paul in the chat. Great to see you guys. It should be a good little breakdown. If you are listening to this in some recorded form, you can always catch us live over on YouTube over at Mile High Sports. Mini plug. Bree, how are you?
That was a perfect mini plug. Thanks, Zach. If you are watching over on Twitter and you'd like to interact with the show, all you have to do is search Mile High Sports over on YouTube or Facebook so you can come interact with the show, much like Dal and Paul are doing right now. Get a little shout out here and join the conversation. Today's going to be a good one. Zach, thank you for asking how I'm doing. I've had a fantastic day. I'm happy to be here. Let's Talk Broncos is still on air 3 to 4 days a week here for Mile High Sports. We'll get you out of schedule over on our Twitter. You can follow us over at the LTB podcast, and you can follow all of us on our little handy screen names you see there in front of you. We're going to jump into it today. Joey already said Robbie has some tremendous breakdowns, both on Sean Payton and DeMeco Ryans. We'll also have a fun mini breakdown of our bold predictions all season. We've been tallying the results, and when I say we, I really mean Zach Seegers has done all the work here per usual and getting the results to everybody. I am anxious to see who won, because if it's Joey, I'm calling a recount and I'm quitting the show. So we will see how all of that goes. We're happy to have everyone in here. I'm going to allow a little bit of time for everyone to hop on over. Again, if you want to interact the show, if you're typing away over on Twitter, it's not going to work. You got to go ahead and jump on over to Mile High Sports YouTube or Facebook. Get your questions and comments highlighted. Let's jump into it, guys. And we're going to get into video breakdowns right now from the one and only Robbie_NFL, Robbie Davis from Davis Breakdowns. He's done a tremendous job for us here at Let's Talk Broncos. I implore you to go follow him. But first, we're going to hop into a potential candidate here for the Denver Broncos in Sean Payton. He interviewed on Monday. It took forever to get a confirmation, but we did hear from Mike Kliss that both Sean Payton and Raheem Morris finished their interviews on Monday. I know all of Broncos country is excited to what that means for the Denver Broncos, but we're going to take a look at what Payton has to offer in his tenure. Take a look and check it out.
What's going on, everybody? It's Robbie here, and today I will be breaking down what makes Sean Payton, in my opinion, one of the greatest offensive coaches of this era. I mean, there aren't too many guys that you can definitively say that are better than him. So jumping right into it, this is from the Week 1 game of the 2021 NFL season. The Packers came into this game with the hopes of playing a heavy dose of the penny front. The penny front is something that I've talked about on this podcast before. We all know the success that Ejiro Evero had running it as the defensive coordinator this year, and honestly, that the entire league is running it. It's a copycat league. Fangio took over when he was the defensive coordinator in Chicago. He ran it a lot. It was the blueprint that stopped the Rams in the Super Bowl for the Patriots, and then from there on, almost every team has adapted it to this point. And again, the goal of it is to get 5 down defensive linemen on the line of scrimmage and to eliminate the double teams and make sure that the offensive line has to win their one-on-one matchups to get a favorable gain on offense. Defensively, again, it's to eliminate the double teams, and it gives the defense one-on-one situations. So Sean Payton's answer to this is to come out in 2-back, and he's going to have Kamara motion across the formation here from the backfield. And what that's going to do is that's going to draw the Mike linebacker here, the lone backer in the penny front. He's going to follow Kamara and walk himself out of the box. So what that does is that gives the offensive line 5-on-5 or hat for hat. So you're going to have the left tackle fan out here. Guard has the defensive tackle. Center has the nose. Guard has the other 3. And then the right tackle has the kick out on the edge. Then what Payton's going to do is he's going to get in read option here with Winston. And what that's going to do is that's going to freeze the read key right here. So we all know on a read option, the read key has to stay disciplined. You know, he can't aggressively go after the quarterback or the running back and take himself out of the play. So then it goes from a unfavorable box count for the offense to a favorable one. And you're going to see here, you're going to see the Mike walk out of the fit with Kamara. You're going to see the Reed Key get frozen. And then it's five offensive linemen, on 4 defensive. On this play here, this is something that Sean Payton calls samurai. So it's usually out of a under center formation, off play action. It's going to get the second level to bite up a bit. And then when you're going to get here is you're going to get a big post from the X, and then you're going to get a deep over from the other side, usually a Z. This time here, it's the Y tight end. And what this is going to do is it's a call against cover 1. And the middle of the field safety has to choose between taking the deep post or the deep over. And you're going to see here, he bites on the deep post. When the X comes across the field here, this safety is going to run with it. And then once he runs with it, that's going to leave the Y to come all the way across the field on the over. And then Breeze is going to have a window to layer it over the second level and drop it in the bucket. And you're going to see that play out here. So you're going to get a short in motion. You're going to get the play action. Then you're going to see the middle of the field safety. As soon as he opens his hips right here to try and jump the big post, Breeze knows he has an angle to layer that ball right to the deep over. You're going to see it right there. He has a perfect window, and it's a perfect throw and a huge play. So lastly here, this is a shot play on a play called Poco, which is basically just a post corner. I'm not sure if that's what Sean Payton calls it, but I've seen other coaches call it that, Poco. And what it's going to be is it's going to be a shot against 2 high coverages. And obviously, I don't have to explain to you guys that 2 high coverages are the new thing this year that have come back. So whenever you see a guy like Sean Payton be able to scheme against those coverages and go against what they're supposed to take away, which is the deep ball, and you're going to see Sean Payton isolate one of the safeties in this coverage and make them wrong. So you're going to see Mike Thomas is going to come up on the bottom of the screen here. He's going to get on the safety's toes. He's going to cut in and sell in. Everything's going to sell the inside cut to the safety. He's going to turn his hips. He's going to turn his head. And then he's going to break right back out on the corner. And what you're going to see is it isolates that safety. And when that safety is one-on-one with a playmaker, that's money for offenses. That's absolute money. And that's what you want against the 2 high coverages. So you're going to see it. He's going to come up on the safety. He's cutting in right now. That safety's driving down on the ball. Then Thomas is just going to break right back out, and it's going to be a big play and a beautiful ball from Breeze.
Awesome. Absolutely. Breakdowns by Robbie_NFL. I need to ask you to follow him because he is not only a tremendous follow, but he's a tremendous friend of Let's Talk Broncos. So I can drop his Twitter handle right there for it. Guys, tell me what you see with Jim Harbaugh out, Sean Payton interviewing on Monday. Lots of excitement here in Broncos country. What are you seeing from these breakdowns? What excites you about the potential of him becoming the next Broncos head coach?
I first want to say that it's really refreshing actually having somebody that can go through before I give my reasoning why, they actually go through and show the plays of why Sean Payton is who he is and why he has had success and shown some of the concepts, different concepts. I mean, all of those were so different from each other, right? And that's a big thing. But definitely go shout out Robbie Davis. He's one of the best X and O's guys. And especially during the coaching cycles, he is the best. So make sure you're following him. Again, Robbie_NFL. But yeah, I mean, Robbie demonstrated it. Sean Payton is an offensive genius, and you can go through his track record and see it. You can go back through his track record. You don't even have to. And I'm happy Robbie showed us the reason is why and everything like that. But you don't even really have to. Guys, go look up Sean Payton on Wikipedia and look up the track record. It'll tell you what you need to know. Honestly, that's how I feel about Sean Payton. His first year as an NFL head coach, 3-13 Saints coming off of Hurricane Katrina over there, devastating. Saints were terrible. Sean Payton takes over, signs Drew Brees. Drew Brees goes from a one-time Pro Bowler to a first-team All-Pro, improves his passing yards by damn near 1,000. Touchdown to interception ratio goes up. Everything's better, and it becomes an MVP runner-up, and then wins the title of that division, and then goes on to win the NFC or to be competing in the NFC Championship game. Like, what else is there to say here? Like, the accolades, everything, the track record's there. Sean Payton is worth that first-round pick. I would trade that first-round pick. To anybody that says I wouldn't trade a first-round pick, I'd love to know who you're drafting in the first round. Because, I take pride in my draft evaluation, but maybe everybody's better than me. Like, I don't know. Like, who is better than Sean Payton? Which player? I know I'm going to be talking about first-round running backs in a few weeks, and that's going to be frustrating. Like, who's the player? Who's better than Sean Payton in the first round? It's just a hard argument to make, I think.
And every player has, again, in that section of the first round, has a 50% bust rate. Like a 50% chance you're not getting anything. Outside of quarterback, head coach is the most important thing in your organization. You're getting a sure thing. And the people would, I think, push back on that sentiment by saying, well, is Sean Payton a sure thing, or is he just a product of Drew Brees? Because we've brought up a lot how maybe Dan Quinn is a product of Kyle Shanahan. Here's how those two conversations are wildly, wildly, wildly different. Without Drew Brees, Sean Payton has a career winning percentage of 0.607. Oh, 0.607. What does that even mean, though? That's just a bunch of random numbers. Here's the two coaches. This is per Pro Football Reference. There's certain qualifiers. I don't have the number in front of me, but certain qualifiers on the number of minimum of games and everything, because this is rate. Here are the two coaches in NFL history with a career 0.607 winning percentage. Tom Landry and John Harbaugh. Also in that neighborhood, you have Bill Walsh at 0.609, Sean McVay at 0.612, Marty Schottenheimer at 0.613. A little below those guys, you have Mike Holmgren at 5.92, Pete Carroll at 5.89, Mike Vrabel at 5.88. Good company for the non-Drew Brees Sean Payton. Now, if we talk about Dan Quinn without Kyle Shanahan carrying him to wins, he's at 4.53. That puts him right next to Walt Michaels. Walt Michaels, well before my era. I'm not familiar with him, but it sandwiches him right between some guys that maybe people are more familiar with, more recent. Joe Philbin and Chip Kelly. So one guy's like Joe Philbin, Chip Kelly. The other's like Pete Carroll, John Harbaugh. I'm going to go for the latter. I don't know. To Joey's point about him being an offensive genius, we've seen him succeed in so many different ways. That's the great thing about seeing him coach for 12 years is he's had to evolve his offense for different eras of NFL defenses and win in different ways. And we've also seen him oversee multiple eras of really good defensive football in New Orleans. Of course, you have the Bounty Gate era, and Bounty Gate's a big thing I think you can critique Sean Payton for, certainly. But you have the defense in that era that was towards the top of the NFL and a huge factor in the reason they won the Super Bowl. And then recently, during their string of dominance where they had several 13-3 seasons, or at least it felt that way, they had a consistent top 10 defense, different defensive coordinators, different players. And I think that's important to me because that's the opposite side of the ball from Sean Payton, and he's building it up. And when you look at the two at multiple different iterations of that defense, and when you look at the two front runners for the Denver Broncos, Sean Payton and Dan Quinn, that's something Sean Payton's done, and it was Dan Quinn's downfall in Atlanta. The offense slowly deteriorated when Kyle Shanahan left, and he couldn't make up for it because the defense was a tire fire, which was Dan Quinn's side of the ball, and he was unable to replace Kyle Shanahan on offense. And once the wheels came off on offense, Dan Quinn was out at head coach, and then the team immediately improved. Another red flag.
I want to point out, Zach, you mentioned I think the biggest talking point against Sean Payton right now, whenever I see people go back and forth with me, because there are people go back and forth with me a lot about the Sean Payton stuff. The biggest talking point I see is he was carried by Drew Brees. And whenever I hear that talking point, it's funny because, they'll bring up Jameis Winston. They'll bring up Taysom Hill, whatever the case may be. No one wants to bring up that Teddy Bridgewater got a 3-year, $63 million deal by the Carolina Panthers after working with Sean Payton. No one wants to focus on his history prior to Drew Brees when he was an offensive person. And, there's a lot of people that give him credit for finding Tony Romo. No one wants to talk about this type of stuff. It's just interesting. I think there's certain narratives out there. But guys, like I said, Wikipedia is free. You could go look it up. All this stuff is available. Like, you can go and research it. It's there. Everything that we've talked about, like, thank God for the internet. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, I feel like you've let all of Broncos country know exactly your feelings on the situation. There's a good question here over from Dal that I think we need to tackle. Over on YouTube, Dal asked, are there no up and coming play callers that couldn't replicate Peyton's offensive genius? Could pair with a defensive leader of men and wouldn't cost any draft capital? Guys, how do you feel about that?
Yeah,
go ahead, Zach.
My thing is, sorry, lost my train of thought there. I think, yes, ideally that's better. If you could just find a top-notch offensive mind that doesn't cost a first-round pick, that's ideal. The problem is, Sean Payton's that. You don't know if these other guys are that. And there's always the chance that you misevaluate and you're wrong, right? Like George Payton just evaluated Nathaniel Hackett to be this great next head coach. We've seen firsthand, and Dwayne Stukes to be a good special teams coordinator, and Butch Berry to be the man for the job at offensive line coach, definitely over Mike Munchak, because Butch Berry knows how to coach outside zone, which Mike Munchak doesn't know how to do. It's very easy to misevaluate these things. Now, some of those were, I think, obvious misevaluations, but it's very easy to misevaluate these things. Sean Payton's a known commodity. Joey talked about it, I think, on the show yesterday. The thing about retread coaches is really just that they're safer and you kind of know what you're getting. But they also generally all have some big red flags because they were fired. The outliers to that rule are Sean Payton, who wasn't fired. He's an awesome head coach who just got tired of it and walked away. Jim Harbaugh, who was fired, but it was because of a weird political power struggle. And given the power of hindsight, I think everyone would go, yeah, the 49ers should have chosen Jim Harbaugh over Trent Baalke. It's got to be very unique circumstances to have these retread coaches look this awesome. And Sean Payton falls into the bucket where he doesn't have the seismic red flags and you're getting this offensive genius. That's not something you're getting. I love DeMeco Ryans. I don't think you're getting an awesome offensive mind under DeMeco Ryans. You hope you are.
Well, we do that all the time with players, right? So, you swing for the fences sometimes. And I don't think DeMeco Ryans would be swinging that incredibly hard given his track record in the league. So it's questionable to me. And also, where's the delineation point from severe red flags and maybe some potential concerns with Sean Payton in general in his tenure as an NFL head coach?
I think the difference is in the track record. Like Sean Payton, since 2000, is one of the winningest head coaches in the NFL. Like Andy Reid's ahead of him, Bill Belichick's ahead of him, and that's about it. Mike McCarthy maybe is ahead of him, but you're like, the list is very, very short. To me, that's the big difference. He's been coaching for 12 years, and he's been consistently successful. And that's through 2-3 eras of NFL football, maybe even 4, but I'd say definitely 3 now that I think about it. Eras of NFL football, and he's had success in all of them. None of the other candidates can measure up to that. I am a huge DeMeco Ryans fan, and I would be all for swinging for that one. But I'm more talking about in regard to the other retread candidates. I think, yes, Sean Payton has some red flags. I don't think it's near in comparison to the other guys just because he's already proven so much more than any of the other retread candidates on the Broncos watch list.
Broncos country, if you're watching along over on Twitter, I am going to ask you once more to hop on over to YouTube or Facebook so you can get your questions and comments highlighted, much like Dal is doing right now as Zach is talking. Dang it, Zach, with the facts and logic. LOL. Don't encourage him, but I appreciate it. 1414 is over here in the chat, making me laugh tremendously hard. So every time you see me crack up, that is why. And if you want to read all of the comments, you can jump on over to there. I don't know if I have potentially personality or character concerns with Sean Payton. I think there's just enough there where we know he's kind of a hard ass. We know he's kind of a no nonsense type of dude. I'm not saying that that's a bad or a good thing. I just think that sometimes I want to give more benefit of the doubt to a head coaching candidate, much like DeMeco Ryans. And we've been talking about it a lot. So I definitely want to jump in to that video as well. Zach, did you have something to say?
Yeah, one tiny little thing. And DeMeco Ryans, I'm all for, and I hate to keep beating this dead horse, but I'm going to do it a little. With Dan Quinn, it feels to me the one thing I've heard people highlight consistently that makes sense, and there's evidence supporting it over Sean Payton, is the nice guy thing, is the locker room thing. And it's frustrating for me because I feel like the Broncos of all teams just learned the lesson firsthand that being a nice guy and being well liked in the locker room is far from the most important thing as a head coach. Because if you just wanted a nice guy who was well liked in the locker room, why even fire Nathaniel Hackett? Because I'll tell you this, even after that Rams game, and they were like giving up a little on the season, but even after the Rams game, he was well liked by most people in the locker room. There's bigger fish.
I don't think it needs to be I don't think it needs to be one or the other either. Joey, go ahead.
No, totally. There's not multiple styles of coaching can succeed. Yeah. Now, this is what I will say. There are certain things that need to be there for coaches. You can have different styles, but throughout all those styles, certain qualities need to be there. Like, I was tweeting about players coaches the other day. I think there's a complete difference between well-liked and then being a player's coach. Because being a player's coach, I think you also need to be respected. I think you need to be able to hold people to a certain standard. There's certain things there where I feel like the water gets murky sometimes between just well-liked and then being successful well-liked. Like there's two, like well-liked doesn't equate to always being it's a good quality to have, but it's not the only quality you need, is I guess the way I would say it. It's like we're about to show DeMeco Ryans here. I'll do it here, and I'll set you up. But we're about to do DeMeco Ryans here, and I think he is the perfect coach to be very well liked, also respected, former player. But yeah, I'm excited to hop into this one by Robbie as well.
Run the clip.
What's going on, everybody? It's Robbie here, and today I am proud to announce that I am breaking down one of my favorite coaches in the league right now, DeMeco Ryans. And specifically what I'll be breaking down is his overload packages. So overload is just you're overloading one side of the offensive line. So you're going to see here they have 3 guys to the offense's left, and the goal of that is to either get the offense to slide to that side of the protection or to get them in a 5-0 protection. And what a 5-0 protection is essentially just a man blocking scheme. The offensive line is just going to be responsible for the guy that's right in front of him. And they want that because once you get into a slide or once you get into a 5-0, that's when you can get into your loops and your stunts. And you're going to see that on this play right here. They're overloading the offense's left. Fred Warner is walked up in the A, and he's going to crash the A. And the goal of it is to get Bosa to be able to loop right around and come in for the sack. So Warner is going to try and occupy these 2 guys right here. Best case scenario is he's going to occupy these 2 guys right there. Worst case scenario is he's only going to occupy 1, and that's still a favorable opportunity for the defense. And you're going to see it. Warner's going to crash in, and he's got the attention of the center. Bosa's going to loop right around Ebukam and Warner, and he's going to almost get the sack, and it's going to lead to, I think it was an interception. So on this play, Warner isn't walked up in the A. It's just a regular 4-down defensive lineman front, but they have the offense's right side overloaded. And they wanted the offense to slide their protection to the right, and that's what they got. And once the offense slid their protection to the right, Armstead, I believe it's Armstead, is going to shoot straight up field and shoot that gap in between the offensive linemen. And Ebukam is going to loop right around him and get in for the sack on Gino. You see the offensive line slides to the right, Armstead shoots straight up the gap, and Ebukam just going to loop right in behind him. So on this last play, the defense has the offense's left overloaded, and they're hoping for the offense to slide the protection to the left. And once they do that, Armstead is going to spike the A gap. He's going to put an inside move on the center and then push the left guard out of position. And once he does that, Bosa is just going to loop right around him and come in untouched for the sack. The goal of this play is just for Armstead to influence the center and the guard as much as he possibly can. And you're going to see as soon as he puts that inside move on him, he has the inside move on the center. He's going to knock the guard out of position, and Bosa's just untouched for the sack.
Once again, if you're unfamiliar with his work, please go follow Robbie over on Twitter, Robbie_NFL, Davis Breakdowns over on YouTube. You can find all of his work over there. And exclusively for Let's Talk Broncos, we'll be posting these clips over on our YouTube, so you won't miss out on them if you want to recap the show. If you're listening to the audio version, as Zach has so pleasantly put it before, you need to hop on over and watch these breakdowns on YouTube, although Robbie does a tremendous job breaking it down so you can basically visualize what's happening on screen. It's not exactly the same, though, so please go and check those out. Robbie, thank you so much for breaking those down for us. Guys, DeMeco Ryans quickly climbing the ladder is one of my favorite candidates here in contention for the Denver Broncos head coaching job, and he's a favorite across the board within the league, getting multiple interviews here. I'm worried he's going to get picked up by another team, specifically because the Broncos seem to be targeting a long tenured coach, but I don't want to overlook just a tremendous balance that you would be getting with DeMeco Ryans, a defensive-minded coach, and who's also, I would consider, a player's coach and one that takes no shit. Guys, break it down for me.
Here's the thing. The player's coach thing, and I'm going to let Joey take that away because everyone talks about that with DeMeco Ryans. But I also think it's a bit of the low-hanging fruit with him. And I'm not trying to dog Ubri. It's been the conversation with this guy. But do not sleep on the fact that he is a defensive savant. Dating back to his time as a player, he was hyped up by there's an amazing piece out by The Ringer today. Joey sent it in the group chat and we all read it. Ringer always does great work, especially Benjamin Solak, and interviewing the Texans defensive coordinator from DeMeco Ryans' rookie year and Sage Rosenfels, who was a quarterback on that Houston Texans team, and how immediately he picked it up. And his rookie year was suggesting in-game adjustments, in-game defensive adjustments, and different quirks to the game plan in the run-up to that week. And knew how to, in practice against Sage Rosenfels, knew what the offensive calls were and like what the best solution was to give the offense a headache and everything. Like, yes, he's the character manager for Kyle Shanahan, and that's a big part of the reason I believe he's going to be a very successful NFL head coach. And like, that deserves all the love and attention he's getting, but what deserves equal praise is the defensive brilliance of DeMeco Ryans. He is an incredibly clever mind and also an incredible developer of talent. You look at Talanoa Hufanga. I studied him. I think I didn't see a single person who thought he should be a like top 50 pick type of safety. And immediately, first year starting, he's an all-pro. First team all-pro, something Justin Simmons has never done. Like, not to besmirch Justin Simmons, that's just objective fact. So yeah, DeMeco Ryans, he is insane. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, Zach, you make a great point there. Like, in that article, and just throughout what I've heard of DeMeco Ryans through a couple years now. I mean, I said this here on this podcast before, but this is a guy, Daniel Jeremiah, highly respected, especially as a draft guy, and myself love reading everything he has to say respect everything he does. He has written down former head coach or former coach for 2 players ever in his draft reports, and he wrote that down for DeMeco when he was a rookie coming out. That speaks volumes, that type of stuff. When you hear these different stories that were highlighted in Solak's article today on The Ringer, where former players are talking about, of course he would be a great head coach. Of course he would be a great head coach while they were still playing with him at the time. And then that's not even mentioning being a former player that demands a certain respect. Like, that guy is going to have a better understanding and can relate to players on a different level than anybody else could. Being in that locker room, having a full understanding of how the locker room dynamic works, there's something to that. There really is, to having a former player in there. DeMeco hits on 2 things that are massive: the X and O's, being intelligent, super intelligent, football IQ off the charts on that defensive side, and he's proven that coming up under Robert Saleh. And then also being a guy that can instill a winning culture. Those are 2 massive things. Now, the only issue I have with DeMeco, honestly, is I'm not sure who's going to bring on that offensive staff. I do trust. I mean, Shanahan and everybody that's come under that Shanahan tree has been successful, really, it feels like. So maybe you can pull some people from over there. But, yeah, I don't know. I just I'm a big fan of Ryans. Just would love to be a fly on the wall in that interview process coming up tomorrow, right, on who he's pitching as his offensive coordinator and what his offensive staff would be like. Love to be a fly on the wall during that. That would be telling to me. But yeah, that's all I really have.
Yeah. Last little tag. DeMeco Ryans' nicknames during his playing career, going back to college, were Cap, short for captain, Coach, and Mufasa during his playing career. And then Mufasa's from his rookie season because he was the wise lion. I mentioned that story on the show. But then his other 2 were captain and coach, whether or not he was obviously he wasn't a coach at the time, and whether or not he was a captain, because it was even early on in his career. That's the type of presence this guy has.
Quick news out of Broncos country. Mike Kliss is letting us know that Sean Payton impressed the Broncos today in the head coach interview. Also reporting, it became clear from both the Broncos and Sean Payton that there was sincere mutual interest in each other. Interesting. Seems to be picking up speed here. I just wanted to throw that in there. Coop over on YouTube, going from quality control to potential head coach in 5 to 6 years is also insane. That would be quite an achievement. Absolutely right there, Coop.
I mean, it's telling that Shanahan has put him into a position where it's like, we need to fast track this guy. It's quality control, defensive coordinator, linebacker coach, defensive coordinator, like this. Like, coaches aren't supposed to be climbing up the ladders like DeMeco has. I don't know. I'm a big fan, especially at the people that were evaluating him during that time. Like, that's important to me as well. Robert Saleh, Kyle Shanahan. I think both those guys, Broncos country, we can agree are good NFL coaches. Like, I don't know. I'm a big fan. And that's a great point, Colton.
Well, and the other thing is, like, this doesn't happen for no reason. Like, this isn't just like randomly happening. I don't know. This isn't, sometimes you see coaches quickly rise through the ranks and it's a little suspect, maybe like a Scott Turner or, who's Norv Turner's kid, or like a Zach Taylor because of his proximity to Sean McVay, or a Brandon Staley or something like that. But even those guys had been coaching for a lot longer than DeMeco Ryans. Also, and this is part of the factor here, they're all white. Look at NFL head coaches. Like, it is hard to become a head coach as a Black person. The interview opportunities are way lesser. Owners are way less open to it. Unfortunately, it's something the NFL is currently trying to remedy. But to be DeMeco Ryans and to have turned down a head coaching opportunity with the Minnesota Vikings last year when it would have been 5 years, and now, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get one this cycle. it's amazing. And just a testament to like how blown away everyone has always been by DeMeco Ryans and his coaching ability, frankly.
Mhm.
I want to hop into one other potential head coach candidate that we've been talking about a lot today, and that is Caldwell. Joey, you made a really great point today, and you asked a pertinent question about why he seems to be overlooked the entirety of his career, given his longstanding reputation in the NFL. Joey, I want you to touch on Caldwell and what you think about his head coach candidacy.
Yeah, you know what? I am a big I am a big Jim Caldwell fan in that when you look at his track record, specifically with quarterbacks, right? Like you can go glowing reviews from everybody he's worked with. Whether that be Matt Stafford, Joe Flacco, when the Ravens won the Super Bowl, he was their quarterback coach there. Peyton Manning, he gave Detroit the recommendation of being like, hey, you should hire this guy, Jim Caldwell. Like everywhere he's gone, he's had glowing reviews from his quarterbacks and then also done great work with those quarterbacks, obviously. He left those teams most of the time having those quarterbacks' best years under Jim Caldwell. There's something to be said there. There is something to be said there. And then when you look at the track record, it's like, okay, he couldn't get us over the hump, which is why he was fired in both stops. But he never had a losing record. Never had his run. He did have a losing record in specific seasons. He left both those organizations with a winning record, is what I meant to say. Apologize on that, but those are two big factors. Like Detroit didn't have a Jim Caldwell was the last winning coach to leave Detroit since 1973. Like, come on, there is something to be said. Like, I just wish, because now you're looking at it, the guy's almost 70 years old. He left Miami as a coach, I think it was 2019, because of health issues. Now you're looking at it like those are concerns, and they are concerns. I just wish the guy would have got another opportunity earlier, probably when he should have. That's my gripe there. I would like him as a Broncos head coach. Right now, I'm going to put him at my third option. I have other people ahead of him, but hey, guys, the NFL hires Urban Meyers and Nathaniel Hackett's every single year. The fact that Jim Caldwell hasn't had a job yet is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't have a ton on Jim Caldwell. I do think the health thing's a legit concern. He'd be the third oldest NFL head coach, has already left for health-related issues. I think the Broncos got it right in 2015 by hiring Gary Kubiak, yet it didn't do it obviously did some short-term good, but it didn't do the franchise a lot of long-term good because 2 years later they were forced to hire Vance Joseph because Gary Kubiak had to retire with health issues. So I do think that's my big knock. I'm trying to think. As for the losing season thing, he had very, very few, and it's like the Peyton Manning neck season is like one of his losing seasons, which, I don't think that's a product of like Jim Caldwell's coaching. The only other time he has a losing season is sandwiched between two playoff stints in Detroit, and it's a 7-9 year. That's the floor of Jim Caldwell's coaching tenure. I'm a big fan of him. I don't know if he'd quite be my number 3 guy. I do wonder what staff he's putting together and whatnot, but his track record's really great. I think he just wasn't ever the biggest personality. He was in Indianapolis and then Detroit, not the biggest markets. And I don't know, doesn't have a lot of media connections, it seems, and of course is older, but yeah, very, very successful NFL head coach. I think he'd be a John Fox-like figure that could just come in and like get the ship turned around.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting news. Thank you, Mike, from MHRT 5280 podcast. Jumped in the chat to let us know. Also, in Mike Kliss's article, Sean Payton was particularly impressed and then added that the Saints are seeking compensation similar to what the Oakland Raiders received from Tampa Bay in exchange for John Gruden in 2002, with 2 first-round draft picks being the starting point. Any comment on that?
Yeah, I've heard from other reporters that that's what they're going to ask for. Now, here's the thing, guys. When you ask for something, like every single time you get into a negotiation, you're going to ask high and you're going to work your way down lower. I think, and I'm super confident, 1000% confident that it's going to be more like what Bill's saying here. It won't cost that much, first and third at most. I 1000% agree with that. They just don't have as much negotiation power as we're leading on, is the reason why. Sean Payton could wait one more year and everything goes out the window. Like that at the end of the day. Like, so the Saints have to, if they want to get as much compensation as they possibly can, they have to make the trade this year. And then from Sean Payton's side, okay, I want to get a head coach job this year. But if I wait 1 year, my team doesn't have to give up 2 firsts or doesn't have to give up a first. Like,
and you might get one of the jobs that you have,
the Saints are gonna have to settle.
leaking forever that you want, a Dallas job, an LA job. It makes tons of sense. I really don't think you're going to have to give up that much for Sean Payton, because what are you negotiating against here? Look, the Saints are doing Sean Payton a solid by facilitating all of this. Hey, you want to get into coaching? Okay, we'll help you out with that. You help us out on the trade end of it by driving up your price, by negotiating with everyone, by drumming up a bidding war. Because if you don't interview with the Panthers, even though there's no way we're trading you to a divisional rival, and you don't interview with the Texans, even though there's probably no way you want to go to that dumpster fire, and the Cardinals can't afford you and whatever, but you're still going to interview with them, even if the Broncos job is the one you clearly want. And I'm not even saying that's the case, but even if it were, because you're going to help us drive this up a little bit. I'd be stunned if it goes for 2 firsts. I'll confidently predict right now on the show it won't go for that. I think it's going to be a first plus something. And then the debate is, do you think Sean Payton is a first round, or the certainty of Sean Payton is a first round pick better than the other options? And I'd say generally, yes, DeMeco Ryans would be the one that would be paused.
I have, this is fun because this is the first time we've had some like breaking news on the Broncos on the podcast that I remember. But Mike Liz also just tweeted. He said, sleeper candidate has emerged for the Broncos. He says, former Stanford coach David Shaw. There have been ongoing discussions between Penner and candidates following interviews. Shaw, a pro-style coach at Stanford and knows the NFL game as he was a 9-year assistant with Philadelphia Raiders and Baltimore. But sleeper candidate has emerged. What do you guys think of David Shaw?
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I'm a big David Shaw guy. I think he'd be a good hire. The NFL's been coveting him for a long time, but he's just had no interest in leaving Palo Alto. Now it might work for both sides. Yeah, I think he's a program builder. He's a guy I'm going to have to look a lot more into, but he's one that appeals to me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be interesting is we'll be covering this until a decision is made. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later, but I'm actually glad that this is going on for quite some time and looks like it will be a very thorough search. Broncos country deserves a wide net being cast for the best man for the job, and just in case the Sean Payton chooses to go to no team or another team, because that is also a large possibility. So let's not count our chickens before they're hatched. I think that's how the saying goes. And we'll wrap up our head coaching candidacy talk and jump into what we have been having fun with the entirety of this entire paltry Denver Broncos season is our bold predictions. Every week, myself, Joey, and Zach have been giving Broncos country what we assumed were bold predictions. And by bold, it was a relative definition of something that could happen, but maybe isn't the most plausible to happen. Zach is about to break it down for all of you. Who won this battle? And if it's Joey, I'm walking off the set.
It's me.
It's
like, you don't have to do the whole breakdown. Just let us know who it is.
Play the siren.
We'll start with second place to build up ultimate tension. I believe we talked about maybe a punishment for last place. Of course, reward is a bunch of free drinks for first place. Maybe like that one chip challenge thing that we've been storing at the MHS office for a minute now.
I think Kip and them ate it, just so you know.
They
think it's
finally
gone.
stole it. Oh, I saw them posting about it, and I was so worried about it. Now I'm annoyed. I bought that. All right, Kip and I are gonna fight for real. So the final records: second place with a record of 27 and 27, perfectly 500, perfectly in the middle of the competition. It is Joey Richards, second place.
Call me
The first
call
runner
me
of the Bold Predictions Challenge.
Call me Jim Caldwell, underappreciated with a pretty good record. I don't know. I mean, I think I have an idea of who finished first here. I'm not happy with it.
I'm not happy if it's not me, because that means I got to go recount everything.
Go recount them all. I've got all the data. By the way, if
It's
anyone
all right.
wants to go over the data, I've got it all saved on the LTB Discord. Of course, all the videos are uploaded over on the Mile High Sports YouTube and the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube, so you can go through them and make sure there's no funny business involved. And the winner of the first ever LTB Bold Predictions Challenge, assuming we don't do playoff bold predictions, because we have discussed maybe doing some playoff bold predictions, so the competition isn't over yet. But as it stands right now, the winner is me with a record of 26 and 23. Bree finished with a record of 22 and 20. Had from the
I don't like it.
All right, we're sabotaging each other now.
We're kicking each other out of here. I could not let the Zach self pat on the back continue. Anyways,
Yeah,
Zach, congratulations on the win, bro.
But we did have some.
I'm happy for you.
We had 8 hits the entire season, which is not the best.
These were outlandish.
They were pretty outlandish. One preseason prediction, which was mine, it was the complex Evero Fangio one, which was determined by the voters in the Discord chat. Shout out to the Discord voters for the W.
I forgot that was going to come back and bite
me.
me.
For new listeners, it was that Joey would defend Fangio or allude to a defensive Fangio. The count of that would be greater than the Broncos rank. The Broncos finished the season ranked 10th in defense, and the Discord voted that Joey defended Fangio at least 11 times. So Joey
I have
something to
say. I have something to say about that. I think it was a setup from the beginning. I really do. It would be very similar to if I was just like, how many times is Zach going to talk about the Broncos this year? Guys, if I'm not talking about Fangio, the last Broncos head coach,
that was part of it.
I'm literally not doing my job.
Then you should have taken the bet. Then you shouldn't have taken the bet, Joey. Then you shouldn't have taken the bet.
You didn't have to take the bet.
You didn't have to take it. It wasn't set up for you to fail.
And guess what? I won't. Going forward, I won't.
Before you took the bet. And we spelled it out to you. That's part of the deal. And then you took the bet. So I don't want to hear this excuse now.
And also, I found good ways to wrap the question differently so I could get out of it. And it just didn't count. It didn't work. People didn't count it.
Can we just talk about how there was no Brittany or Patrick or what's his face Mahomes mentions at all this year? Like I got royally screwed.
That was crazy.
So yeah, our other preseason predictions. Joey predicted that that Russell Wilson would dive into the Christian rap game. That did not happen. Very surprisingly, I would say. Bree predicted the Mahomes fan would trend negatively at least 5 times. Joey didn't even take her up on that. I did, and amazingly, they didn't trend negatively a single time. I wouldn't have even expected that outcome. Someone got a stern talking to last offseason. I also said that Baron Browning would finish the season with either 8 sacks or 28 pressures. There was something about that was like there's some significance to those numbers. I don't remember now. He missed both of those, finishing with 5 sacks and 18 pressures. I said Jalen Virgil would outproduce KJ Hamler. He fell 113 yards short of that. Joey had 9 sacks by Draymond, and Draymond was on pace to crush that prediction prior to his injury. And as a result, Joey came up short. That one was kind of some BS. Joey also had 1,000 receiving yards for Jerry Jeudy, and then during the show was talked into bumping it up to 1,100. Either way, he would have been short, but man, if he stayed at 1,000.
Again, I work with liars and cheaters. They will cheat their way to the top of the victory board. I mean, it's out of control.
Bree had lock starts more games than Geno Smith. Did not happen, as Geno Smith started all 17, and 8 interceptions for Patrick Surtain, which I think, right church with, PS2 being a first team All-Pro this year, but wrong pew as he only had 2 interceptions. Overall, pretty good. The other big hits were in week 3. That was maybe our best team or best week as a unit. The only week we all had winning records, and the only week we had multiple hits. I said the Broncos, if you remember, they started terribly in the red zone. I said they'd go at least 50% in the red zone that week on scoring touchdowns. They went 100. Joey said the Broncos would get 2 takeaways from the 49ers, and they got 3. Bree said Baron Browning would have a sack. And although Baron Browning didn't have a sack, she cleaned up on Frankie, whose 0-3 record really fluffed ours up by saying Russell Wilson would score a touchdown in the final 20 seconds. And as we know, Russ didn't score a lot of touchdowns this year, and that did not happen. Other hits, Joey in week 5, Bree in week 4, maybe the best hit of the season, predicted a Cortland Sutton first touchdown. Look at how many touchdowns Cortland Sutton scored this season, or really since his ACL tear. She hit on it, not just as an anytime touchdown, but as the first touchdown of the week 4 game. Big hit
some
there.
money on it too. Thanks, Betfred.
You did. And then week 5, Joey predicted 1.5 Baron Browning sacks, and Browning had exactly 1.5 sacks. Another good hit. Week after that, Bree kept our hot streak going, predicting that Herbert would would be held under 250 passing yards. Then we went cold for 3 weeks, or about a month if you include the bye, without getting a single one right. That was painful. And Joey snapped our cold streak with another great hit, the Brandon Johnson touchdown. Correctly predicted Brandon Johnson's only touchdown of the season. That one was pretty sweet. In week 13, Bree predicted that Russ would get benched. That was an exciting one. I'm just trying to see if any of these
crazy. That you got that one right?
Out. No, she didn't.
I was about to say I don't even remember him being benched.
The one that won it for me, because as I was tallying it up, there was no clear leader all throughout. I was texting Joey and Bree, week by week updates, and I jumped out to an early lead, and then I think it was Joey shot by me, or Bree shot by me, and then Joey shot by both of us, and then Bree shot by us. And then what did it for me at the very end, feel free, all the data is in the LTB Discord. You can also watch all of our YouTube videos. Give us some extra.
Zach counted the preseason, which is crazy. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, did that help you in any way?
Yeah, he won in the preseason. He mentioned it. Anyways.
Preseason is what did it.
Then why would we do a postseason that the Broncos don't exist in? We don't count wins from the regular season.
Because I'm winning right now, and I'm trying to give you guys a chance to catch up.
Hey, Zach, quick question.
Yes.
The NFL doesn't count the preseason, right?
No, these weren't.
So why would we?
These were no.
I mean, it feels
actually all right, Joey. If you're going to play that card, all right. Our predictions started in week 2 because we did our season predictions in week 1. So really, these are our week 1 predictions.
Preseason.
Eat one, Joey.
I mean, I wouldn't count the preseason, me personally. But anyways,
it's a little weird.
It is weird to count the pre.
No. Our main show, our main bold prediction show, where we made our most bold predictions count. It's so stupid.
I mean, I wouldn't count.
Also, if you want to get rid of counting that Joey wins.
Coop is asking about how to get
Exactly.
into the Discord. If anyone else wants to have these types of conversations 24/7 with the Let's Talk Broncos crew, hit us up over on Twitter, on Facebook, or on
Is
YouTube.
it in
Drop
the
a comment.
bio?
It might be in the bio. I don't know, but I'll go ahead. It might be a pinned tweet or something, but I'll respond back to anyone who follows
It's
me and
going
I'll
in the
DM it
YouTube.
over.
It's going in the YouTube and Facebook comments right now. Goodness.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks, Zach, for doing that. I'm upset in general at all of this. There's the Discord right there. If you want to jump on in, take a little bit of time to chat with us.
I'll give you guys a chance to win it right here with my and Sam is dead on. I am pretty much just saying that I'm better than you guys. But the numbers speak for themselves. I will give you guys both a chance to get back in the game right now if you want to make some postseason.
Did anybody vote for you guys to be on a certain radio show in Broncos country? No. So
Super Bowl MVP. That is my bold prediction.
Okay, this is ridiculous. You didn't. This isn't a bold.
We have to plan.
Episode.
We have to.
Can I get my thoughts together, please?
See, let's just bellyache
this is a little
about
crazy.
it.
We'll do that on. We'll do that on Friday's episode. I'm not going to get caught off guard. You've been planning this. I'm not going to come in here and try to
complain once we find out we lost, and then we don't search for a solution. I think that's the idea.
I love the solution, but you gave us absolutely no time to plan, which is a lot like counting preseason bold predictions. So I don't like it.
It is crazy. You're going to come in here and hit us over the head with maybe I'll give you guys a chance, when in reality you counted the preseason, which is the only reason you got to win.
I counted the season. None of those predictions were about the preseason.
Like to carry on.
None of them are about the preseason. This is ridiculous.
Anyways,
No. All right. Let's end this on a good note. It's time for everyone's favorite part of the Let's Talk Broncos evening show. It's Joey's question of the day.
I hate
That's what you get. That's what you get. It's the
worst horn of all
bullshit, Joey.
I hate it.
Okay. 3. Okay. Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis, Jake Butt, and there's one more player on here. And Julius Thomas all wore this number. What number is it?
Oh, come on. This is a layup.
I don't think it's a layup.
Why am I completely... Hold on.
I don't think it's a layup. Vernon Davis, Broncos legend Vernon
Davis one's confused. It's Julius Thomas gives it away.
And I'm drawing a blank because I do no good under pressure. So Zach, take it away.
I'm sorry, Bree. I
it's all right.
You up for failure there. I feel terrible now.
You don't.
Number 80.
I thought that I was going to say 80, and I second guessed myself because I thought for some reason it would be retired, and then I remember the Broncos don't retire numbers, and so here I am looking like an idiot live on broadcast for all of you. 14 comes through and says 80. Samuel Castro comes through and says 85, and I think it was just to make me feel better. Thanks, guys. Where can everybody find your stuff?
Yes, everyone. Follow me at Jared Rass. Find my writing at Mile High Sports. Article should be coming out very, very soon. I finished it tonight, so I just need someone to. It's going to be out very, very soon. So everyone keep their eyes peeled for that. And then, yeah, nothing really else. Come kick it in the Discord. Make sure you're following us on YouTube. Not just the Mile High Sports YouTube, but the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube, because we want to make money, and I guess those views are more valuable than other ones, is what we were told. So, yeah, if you're listening to us through Twitter, go follow the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube ASAP. But, Zach, where can they find your work, man?
Follow me over at milehighsports.com and at Zach_Seegers on Twitter.
You can follow me over on Twitter, BreeMaces303. Catch me and Zach on Mile High Sports Radio every single Monday, 1 to 2 p.m. for the Fan Cave, and then peppered throughout Let's Talk Broncos for Mile High Sports. We'll get a schedule up on Let's Talk Broncos so you know when to expect us. But the other option is setting those notifications, going ahead and subscribing to all of our channels, and that includes our socials on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll talk to you guys, I believe, on Friday. See you soon.